Imagine living your life after 50 and feeling energized and excited about your future. Welcome to the Women in the Middle podcast, the podcast for women who are ready to figure out what they want and create the life they deserve. Here's your host and master certified life coach, Susie Rosenstein.
Hey there, today we're talking about rediscovering your purpose with a surprising art form, the Naked Man Project. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast Women in the Middle, where we are all about how to get unstuck, clear, and excited about your next chapter, especially if you're over 50 or 60 and feeling like life is way too short to keep waiting. I'm your host, Susie Rosenstein, your master certified coach and midlife mentor, and I am so glad to be here with you again. Now, if you're new here, thanks so much for popping in. It's always a great time of year to think about what being a woman in the middle means to you, and more importantly, what you want it to mean to you. And I have to say, my friend, I really love my job. I am so excited that at 62, I'm able to say, I really love my job. I get to meet the most fabulous midlife women who have done incredible things, interesting, fascinating, and gutsy. They are quite something, and it's a privilege to sit down with them for an interview. Today, I'm sharing one of those incredibly fascinating stories with an amazing midlife gal. There's not a doubt in my mind that you're going to love her story, and you'll recognize her courage as she dismantled her own shame. My guest today is Michelle Dovey. Michelle's an artist, best-selling author, and creator of the Naked Man Project and the Naked Man Oracle. Here's what happened. After dismantling her own shame through the radical act of drawing 100 naked men, she now helps women and organizations reclaim their aliveness, creativity, and authentic power. Her talks blend art, humor, and psychology to spark conversations that break taboos, challenge perfectionism, and inspire courage. She has been featured internationally and is known for creating safe, transformative spaces where audiences laugh, cry, and leave forever changed. Michelle's origin story began in Florence, in the middle of a divorce, where she discovered shame hidden within her own art. In the blank space of sketchbook drawing, she saw how shame had silently shaped what she allowed herself to see. What started as an experiment to draw 100 naked men became a radical journey of confronting taboo, reclaiming desire, and giving herself permission to look fully and unapologetically. Through this work, Michelle developed a series of keynote talks designed to spark bold conversations in art schools, corporate environments, and communities of women in midlife. These talks challenge hidden patterns of shame, resentment, and self-silencing while opening new pathways to courage, creativity, and transformation. Without further ado, please enjoy this episode. Hi, Michelle. Thanks so much for joining us today on the Women in the Middle podcast.
I am so totally delighted, Susie. Can't wait to talk to you.
Me too. This topic is a little different.
You're right there.
And plus, your accent's so fun, so it's going to be great. Okay, Michelle, you, my friend, went from being a well-behaved good girl in midlife, these are all in your own words, to getting divorced, discovering hidden shame, and going on a big adventure. Like, how excited are my listeners right now thinking about what the heck we're going to talk about?
I know, right?
It's so good. So tell me, I love to start these interviews by just asking you a little bit about what your life was like in your 40s so we can really appreciate how you started to think about change and how you moved into change. So what was going on for you in your 40s?
Okay, so my 40s, I was subscribing. I was trying to live the dream. I had moved to the countryside with my husband at the time. We'd bought the great big house. We were making it all look beautiful. There was a walled garden. We were growing our own vegetables. Our kids were little. And so we were living in the countryside. We were kind of doing all the things. And to everybody else, we looked like the perfect family. I was certainly trying to be perfect family. I was an artist. I had a gallery in London that represented me, which was very prestigious Mayfair Gallery. I painted trees while the kids were at school, and then when they came home, I was mum. So I was spinning all those plates.
Oh my gosh. The painting trees part is making me laugh. Like, honestly, trees don't get anybody upset. And all the vegetables and everything.
I
Ah,
know.
and the walled garden. I just went back to grade three with
I
that book.
know. I think I got the message somewhere. It's like I wanted to try and make my life look like. Do you have House and Garden magazine? A
Yes,
bit like I saw the Martha Stewart, a little bit like, I was subscribing to the Martha Stewart's vision
I
of
I I
like
love
domestic
Martha.
bliss. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Wow. What was that? What was that book about? Oh, The Secret Garden.
Oh yeah, The Secret
I
Garden. Yeah.
remember I did a poster and I drew that. And that's where I just went when you're describing your lifestyle. My goodness.
I think that's
So,
where I was. I think that's where I was. I was kind of
right.
fantasy land.
So what happened? When did you know that that wasn't really what was going on for you deep inside?
So the truth is, I got a little bit depressed. We're out in the countryside. I was an artist and also had these young children. My neighbors were about a mile away, and my husband worked in London. So I was there a lot on my own, and I actually got a bit lonely, got a bit down, and said I want to move into a little town. Um, so we moved into a nearby town, and then also not long after that, I had my 20-year wedding anniversary. And then I kind of realized that I was like, oh, the thought arrived, gosh, I don't want to do this for another 20 years. So things were sort of, oh, and also my gallery in London shut. So it was like sort of change was upon me before I even, um, I was sailing along and then suddenly I hit some bumps.
Yeah, I'm having another little flashback about the difference between my 40th birthday and my 50th birthday. And when I turned 40, I remember doing a little assessment and thinking, you know what? I'm so content.
Yeah.
And then in my 50th birthday, it didn't feel that way. Things had started to change. I'm fascinated though that you caught the thought about the longevity of your marriage and not wanting to do another 20 years that way. When do you think, like, what made it possible for you to actually see that thought at that milestone?
It was a very surprising thought. Um, And truly, before that moment, I hadn't grasped how unhappy I was. It was just a kind of like, gosh, 20-year anniversary. And then like I was watching my thoughts that said, gosh, I don't want to do this for another 20 years. And then the next one was, I don't really want to do this for another 10 years. And then the next one was, I don't even know if I want to do for 5 years or 2 years. And then I realized then I thought, actually, this is serious. And in a way, I also think what happened that I had my blinkers on for so long to how unhappy I was, that it was only that thought kind of somehow crashed through, thank goodness. Thank goodness it penetrated through the kind of fog of perfectionism that I was trying very, very hard have it all together. That's what I was expending all my energy on.
So it was easier maybe to focus on having it all together versus how you were really feeling about some things that were starting to bother you.
I think so. I think it is
Wow.
actually, it was actually for sure for me easier to hold and work harder at holding it together. Um, but I think more or less what happened when that thought came along is I actually felt tired for the first time. I was like, I actually don't know that I just don't physically feel resourced enough to just keep doing this, holding it together.
It's so hard to catch these insights. I find that,
Yeah.
it's so hard to actually catch a thought. Most of the time, we just push them down and ignore them. And you
Yeah.
caught it,
Yeah. And it terrified me
I
because we
bet.
were living in a little town and I was absolutely terrified about what would happen if I said that we were separating. We live in a very, traditional, conservative place and I didn't really know what was going to happen. It was like so far out of my
Hmm.
comfort zone and realm of experience. like for someone to say, no, this doesn't work. I'm not doing this any longer. It was like, oh my gosh, terrifying.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. And then somewhere along the line, not too far after that decision, it looks like you took yourself to Florence. So how did that decision come about?
Okay, honestly, I had had a holiday with my husband that I was divorcing, and we ended up in Florence. We were on a city break, but I didn't really realize I was in Florence. Florence is, for those who don't know, Florence is really like the center of the Renaissance, Italian Renaissance. So it's the place where artists like Michelangelo were based and Raphael, and it was kind of a huge center of the art world. And my ex was like, "Well, we're not really here to look at art. We're on a city break. We're just here to hang out with each other." And I guess I'd harbored some resentment. And in the middle of divorce, I was like, I know I would really like to go back to Florence and do Florence how I would like to do Florence and see all the things that I wanted to see. And um, they're kind of really special to me. Michelangelo is one of my favorite artists. So it was giving myself permission to do what I hadn't done earlier on.
Oh my gosh. So you may not know this, and as a listener, maybe you've heard me talk about this before, but I am in the business of giving people permission all the time, and I have a wand at the ready. So, bing, I'm so happy to hear a story about giving yourself permission to do this. It's beautiful. And again, you heard the thought. So, hopefully, you were getting better at really sensing what it is you needed and wanted.
I was, and in fact, I was working with a coach at the time, and I remember them saying to me, what's your mission? What would you like?" And I was like, "Oh, I'll just throw this out there." I said, "Gosh, I would love to go to Florence," and they said, my coach at the time said, "We have an apartment in Florence. Would you like to stay? Would you like to stay in that?" And I was like, "Yes." It was even hard for me to say yes. I think now that I'm speaking to you, I'm realizing I had to go from someone who didn't say yes to myself. And that was really, I suppose that's the big turnaround piece. It's like to saying yes to myself as often as possible,
Yeah.
daily.
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, and I'm so fascinated by the way people make decisions, which is why I'm digging in here a little bit before we get
Yeah.
to the other stuff. So much to talk about. So, but I know something happened for you in Florence that had to do with sketching a statue. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, absolutely. It was a little bit wild. So it was my first day. I'd got up and I got out down early to the Uffizi, which is the art museum. And without thinking too much, I got out my sketchbook and I was drawing the first statue. There was a statue of Apollo just there. And I sketched away. And afterwards, I looked down and I saw that there was a blank space in the middle where his genitals should have been. And what I'm saying is that I drew the rest of his body, his curly hair, his fingers, his eyes, his mouth, his nose, his ears, everything. But there was this space in the middle that I had left blank. And it was the first time that I'd ever done anything like that. And it was like catching, I think the word is like a Freudian slip. When you say something or do something a little bit odd. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow, that is bizarre.
And what did you make it mean?
I thought to myself, is it possible that I have had some conditioning, even though I was 51 at the time? Is it possible that I had some early conditioning about what I should and shouldn't look at? And I thought that's probably possible. That's
Mm.
probably possible. And so I drew a little pencil circle around the space in my sketchbook, and then I filled it in, and I was like, right then, okay. So it was a bit like it caused me to put attention on that area. And then as I went through the museum, you can tell I was obviously drawing every statue and everything.
Yeah, so that was you just let it all out at that point. You're like, I don't want to be conditioned. I want to just do what I want to do.
Yeah, I was like, okay, well, it's probably possible that there is some conditioning, but now here I am. So let's just, I was under the impression that as an artist, I was drawing everything and that there was nothing. um, that I wasn't really allowed to do. So I was putting that into practice.
Now, where did the 100 come from? 100 naked men. Where did that thought like so you have I'm sketching this for the first time. Oh, it's weird. Look at me leaving that little space.
Yeah,
To I'm going all in. I'm going to draw 100 naked men. How did that come to be? Because that's a big idea.
it's a big idea. I'll tell you what happened. The next day, I went home and I thought, this is a very interesting situation. Um, when I had that thought, I wonder if it's true that I had some messages about what I shouldn't be drawing. I thought, well, I know what I'll do. There's a big statue of Michelangelo's David in the square. I'm going to go down there tomorrow and draw David's genitals all afternoon and see how it feels, see what happens, see how it feels. And so I did. And I actually, in the doing of that, I thought, this is so interesting. I can absolutely remember, I'm a very good drawer. I'm a classical drawer. And I can remember learning how to draw hands. And there's lots of things about the body that are difficult, like, the faces, just faces, eyes, jaws, collarbones, elbows, knees. I can draw everything. And I learned to draw everything. But as I was drawing, I was thinking, I don't think I've actually ever really concentrated on this before. And then as I was walking around Florence that week, the idea grew in my mind. I thought, I would really like to give myself permission, like with the wand, to draw 100 naked men. Maybe it'll be 10 years. It'll just be a personal project where I give myself permission to look at everything. That's what I would like to do. Um, so that's how it happened. So it was going to be just a personal project, which actually terrified the life out of me. So I didn't tell anybody, and I didn't do anything for a year.
Now, what part terrified you? Was it telling somebody about it, or was it just making the commitment to dive in that deep?
I think it was what I was really worried about what everyone would say, and I was worried about what everyone would think about me. I didn't realize that I was so worried about what everyone thought until in the doing of this, it was like, oh, it really revealed how how much how feared, what people would think.
Oh my gosh, Michelle, that's been a giant epiphany for me too, personally. I
Yeah,
had no idea I was so fearful. I always thought of myself as very resilient. And then when I started to really look at fear in my life and the way it was related to decision making, I was
yeah.
floored. I was
It's
just floored.
wild.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a podcast episode I'll put in the show notes about a fork in the road that talks
Okay.
about fear, but I just love that you had gotten far enough into challenging yourself in this relatively short period of time that you got a wacky idea and you were curious about it.
I was. And I don't know if you know Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic book on ideas about, I sort of felt like this idea landed on me. And then
Mm.
apparently ideas, they kind of wait for you to say yes. And I was terrified about doing it. It felt powerful. It felt like a powerful, life-changing sort of an idea. And I was also terrified about if I didn't say yes to it, that the idea would go off and land on somebody else. Because apparently that's what. So I was terrified to do it, and I was terrified about what would happen if I didn't do it. It
Even
was,
though what I love about this too is that it challenges this desire we have for certainty and for things to have to make sense and this compulsion to want to know exactly what's going to happen next and all these things, like to just know, and I talk about this so much on this podcast, that sometimes all you need to do, I would say most of the time, is just take the next best step and let that be. Because in the doing of that next best step, you will reveal the next best step because of your experience, your thoughts, somebody you spoke to, a question you asked yourself, where you travel next, like whatever it is, it's going to be affected by you taking the first best step. So I love that you just noticed it felt like a powerful idea, but you really didn't know what would happen except the sky might fall.
exactly. I really did think the sky would fall. And then I could, because I also Well, anyway, yeah, that's what happened. So I sat on it for about a year. I quietly did a couple of drawings about, a couple of guys that I knew. I was just quietly working away. And then I heard that, I heard that this about the 10x idea,
Mm.
about how 10x is easier than 2x. And you can either amplify what it is that you're doing or you can shorten the amount of time. And I was kind of riveted by this idea. And I thought for me, that would mean drawing 100 men in a year.
Ah, so it wasn't just a few men. It wasn't just toiling away quietly with a couple of pages. It was like, no, I'm going to put a number on it. And 100 does seem big.
100. To be honest, it seemed like an impossible thing.
Mm,
At the time, it felt like it's true. It changed it from a sort of mini impossible idea to a maximum impossible idea.
mm.
At 10 men and 100 men in 10 years was like, okay, I was getting my head around that. But 100 men in 1 year, I just had no idea where I was even going to start.
And you're not talking about statues?
I'm not talking about statues. I'm talking about asking real men if they will take their clothes off and let me draw them.
There we go. Okay.
I'm talking about doing that 100 times in 1 year.
In 1 year. Okay. So if you're listening right now, how does that sound to you? It does sound like a really big idea for me. And there are a lot of nuances to the idea, like the asking,
Yeah.
talking about it, because now it's an idea that has momentum and you have to talk about it to find more people to participate.
That's
So
it.
you're
How am I even
really
going to find them?
right. And you're really putting yourself out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I actually remember going for a bike ride and I thought, how on earth would I do this? And I thought, just write it up as an art project. Write it up as an art project and tell everyone you know. And then that felt terrifying. I mean, there were so many points where I thought, I have no idea what's going to happen next. I really don't know.
It's so fun. I mean, even I just love that. I just write it up as an art project, like act normal. You're probably saying to yourself, just be a normal artist. Do what you know how to do. Just write it up and accept that this is what you're doing and you're excited about it.
Exactly that. Write it up as an art project. And I had another coach at the time, and she said, carry out your plans like a fully funded CEO. And that was similar. It was just like, okay, somehow like own it. Let's see what we're going to do with this. So I wrote it up as an art project. I asked everyone I knew, and 3 guys said yes. So I traveled around the country and drew them. And then they
Hang
kind
on. Hang on, Michelle.
okay.
So these three people, were they people you knew or social media? They just caught wind.
They were people I knew.
So that's different.
Exactly. They were people I knew. Um, and they were willing to help me, basically. They weren't professionals. They'd never done this before. It was out of their comfort zones, but they were willing.
So let me just ask you, as somebody who's never drawn nudes, I have never
Yeah.
been in this situation. What's involved? The whole thing, like what kind of space are you in? How long does it take? And is there a name associated with the drawing?
Okay, I'm so glad you asked this because it is like an art thing. It's called a life drawing. And you can go to life drawing classes, and it's kind of it's a normal thing that happens. You've probably got them in your town. You can go to a life drawing class, and then what happens is, um, there's people in the class. You're usually standing at an easel with a big bit of paper, and then the model um, takes their clothes off, and you draw them. Um, Me personally, I asked if they would be willing to have a 3 hour session where we spent some time talking about what we were doing, and I'd find a place, a comfortable place for them to sit. They were sitting on their sofas, um, so they were comfortable. So I was drawing them in their own houses. So
Private, just the two of you?
yeah, so it was just the two of us. So I would go to their house, have the conversation. This is what I'd like to do. And then this sounds a little bit wild, but I also asked if I could draw them from the front with their legs apart. so that I could really, it was like, okay, I really am going to do this. I'm going to draw them from the front with their legs apart and do a life drawing. So that part was unusual, but the life drawing part is a usual part of like the art world.
Okay, Michelle, forgive me if this sounds like a stupid question, but what part is unusual? Because just be clear, I'm not exactly sure what's going on here.
It's unusual to say, "Can I draw you from the front with your legs apart?"
Ah,
That's
okay.
that's the unusual part
What
because,
what would usual be?
well, I've been to life drawing classes and there's just ways that people can cross their legs or turn to the side, or there's ways that you can draw a human body which doesn't have genitals. There's like so many ways that you can do that. And more or less that's kind of what happens. It's
Hmm.
unusual to be that to have such an open pose.
Okay,
I
okay.
say it like that.
Thank you for clarifying because I really had no I really had no idea.
It's also a little bit unusual to be drawing someone in their house, um, on a Tuesday afternoon or whatever it was. So all of
There-
those things.
I'm so proud of you at this moment. Like I just what gets me very excited is when people start to think about what's possible. So you start challenging yourself, you get an idea, you're curious about it, you raise the bar, like you're doing all of these things, even though you were scared, even though you didn't know what people would think. And I mean, there's just a lot to this. This really is a novel idea for you. And it sounds like it's kind of a novel idea, period.
It, yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a very novel idea for me. And the other thing is that I decided that I wanted to share about it on my social media.
Fun.
And I didn't realize at the time, but that had a great, I mean, that was kind of wild as well. I had to deal with everyone's, responses. Mostly were very positive.
But I can't even
Um,
imagine what you're allowed to share on social media.
oh, well, I can tell you, you're not allowed to share nudes. So a lot of my nudes, I didn't, got taken down, or else I always put like words in front of the genitals. I mean, also people said to me, they were like, "Gosh, it's very strong, Michelle." My mother was saying to me, "Gosh, Michelle, I wish you would give us a little bit of an introduction rather than just sticking your drawings up." And then, she was like, "One minute I'm looking at my knitting patterns, and the next minute one of your drawings flashes up."
That's fair.
I was thinking that
Fair
is fair.
feedback.
That is fair, right? So I was also became very conscious of like, this is offensive for some people. So it's like, gosh, there's quite a lot of things to consider here. I don't want to
Hmm.
offend anyone. I don't want to traumatize anyone. And I also want to try and be open about what I'm doing so that I don't have any more shame. So there
Mm.
was a lot to work out there.
Okay, so tell me more about shame at this point in what's going on for you.
Okay. I I wrote a chapter in a book in 2024
I know
called
COVID
Radical.
made it so difficult for us to remember years and everything, right?
Yeah, called Radical Freedom.
Mhm.
And in the writing of the chapter, it was a collaborative book. I tracked that, in fact, I loved Michelangelo when I was 14. I discovered him, and I got I was loved him so much. I was copying his drawings everywhere. I was making some cards for my friends, Christmas cards, and one of my friends' mums said to me, "Why are you drawing naked men?" And I didn't really realize that I was drawing naked men. I thought I was drawing Michelangelo.
Oh, wow.
And at that point, I was like, oh, interesting. And then, when I went to art school, I absolutely loved drawing the figure. I absolutely loved drawing nudes. They were my absolute favorite thing. But when I grew up in New Zealand. I'm from New Zealand. When I came to London, there was a kind of anti nudes, anti figures moment going on in the art world in the 90s. And
Mm.
so they were like, "You're too figurative." We're kind of everyone was into abstraction and conceptual work. So it was kind of like a message like that wasn't okay. And I actually did end up doing some naked dancing woman paintings in 2004. The foreign minister brought one at the time, and there was a bit of an uproar in the newspapers when when someone saw what he had on his walls, and it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this kind of like it's like the skeletons in the closet. So I had a kind of I had been getting messages sort of along the line that the nudes were tricky. Nudes were
Mm.
tricky, and even though it was something that I absolutely loved, um, they were a bit of a no-go. A potent subject, and probably, yeah. I mean, it's interesting that I ended up painting trees. I think what I saw when I wrote this chapter is that I had an early love of drawing the nude that was sort of like um, got
Squished.
got squished.
Yeah.
And so when I returned to it at 53, 51, 51, I was that feeling of like, I don't want to squish this any longer. That was strengthening me, if you like. In a way, I wasn't prepared to put it down again. So that gave me my courage.
Now, when did you identify the feeling as shame?
Um, it was in the writing of that chapter, and what I realized is that it's the shame, even though I didn't know what that word meant at the time. The shame is what made me eject out of the situation so fast. And I think I was just starting to get a glimpse of, oh, this feeling, this yucky feeling, the yucky, icky feeling, like I don't want to go anywhere near that. That's shame. Um,
So until the writing of this chapter, you hadn't really thought about the incident when you were 14 and how that tracked to when you moved to London. You hadn't
it,
put it all together.
I hadn't put it all together. It was only in the writing of the chapter that I joined the dots.
Wow. You must
Yeah,
have been surprised.
I was. I mean, it was a little bit like, gosh, I'm really waking up from a long dream here.
Yeah. Yeah. And you could have never anticipated what the wake up process would look like or feel like. But the fact that you're putting the dots together now, even looking at shame, it's that's tricky. You know,
I
you didn't
think
want it to be squished, but looking at it is a little tricky because it's so perplexing and you don't really understand all the dots.
exactly. Because I started doing this project, it was a bit like having a spotlight on shame, and I got to know lots of different types. For example, when I ended up hiring an apartment in London and getting all the guys to come to me. So that's what I did. That was my CEO move. I
Ah, love that. Well, then you can control the space better. You just
exactly. I was
feel
like,
more like a boss and
I
a
need to have
professional.
everyone coming to my space. So I
Yeah.
made the schedule like 9:30 till 11, 12:30 till 2, 3:30 till 4. And there was a reception downstairs, and I had to give the receptionist the name of all the people who were visiting me and the times. So can you imagine? So I've got Peter coming at 9. I've got David coming at 11:30, and I've got Joseph coming at 2 o'clock, and then the same again tomorrow, and the same again tomorrow. And that was what I called reception shame. It was like every time I went down to the reception, I would look at them, they would look at me, they would smile at me, and I would think, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. They know what I'm doing. I'm going to get thrown out. Someone's going to tell me I can't do what I'm doing, all of the things.
Wow. Wow. And that's something I'm sure you didn't anticipate when you were thinking, oh, act like a CEO, create a professional space.
I'm trying to be professional. I'm trying to hold it all together. I'm trying to be a woman of integrity. And also, yeah, all of these situations going on.
Oh my gosh, that's a good one. Okay, so another thing I noticed in your notes that I found really so fascinating and so important is the healing aspect of what you were doing. So first sharing about what you were doing was healing for you, and then talking about safe spaces and the CEO move and everything. Tell me more about holding safe consent spaces with the men that you were drawing. How did that come about and what did you do?
Well, that was really wild, actually. Yeah. So, um, okay. So in the beginning, there was a moment where, if this is too much, you can I'm gonna just say it. In the beginning, there was a moment where it seemed like the men that I was drawing wondered if we were going to be all assumed that we were going to be having sex.
Are you
Some
kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding.
Even though you were so clear it was an art project, they didn't believe it, or they thought it didn't matter. There must be
They
more
thought
to
that
it, or
maybe there was that as well, or maybe it was a way of asking for sex, that maybe this was some sort of kinky sex thing, or maybe we'd be having, like, the question just was, are we going to be having sex before or after or in the middle?
oh, so it was actually asked?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm naive. I'm shocked.
I was a little shocked, but then at the time I was also like, well, this is interesting. I'm just actually a woman in midlife who's just got, in the middle of just got divorced. And there's all these people, and I'm doing a drawing project, and they think that and the offer is available to have sex with them as well. So I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. So
Sure is. Wow. Okay. I'm really, I didn't see this coming.
I didn't see it coming either. It was surprising. But at some point I said, do you know what? This isn't what I'm actually doing. I want to do this for me to look. This is about looking, and this is about giving myself permission to look. So even though I had enjoyed what was being offered to me, I did actually draw a line and said, okay, this at the end, this is not about sex. This is just about drawing. And at that point, um, it's like it was sort of magic. It's like everyone's nervous systems relaxed.
Wow.
And then what I got to notice is that, in fact, it was just that they didn't know what was expected. They didn't know what was expected. It was up to me to be clear about the space.
Mm.
So I had some great feedback from some of the guys. They were like, it would be good if you could say exactly what's going to happen. Like what you just said. It's like, be good if you could say it's 2.5 hours. We're going to spend the first 15 minutes talking. Then I'd like you to take your clothes off. Then I'm going to be drawing you. You're going to be on the sofa. I'm going to be standing, and just set the whole thing out. And as I got more and more kind of confident and clear about that boundary, everyone could relax. And then I could relax and they could relax. And then they started saying things like, wow, this is the first time I feel really seen. They started having profound experiences of um, kind of talking about their own shame that they had around their own bodies, but feeling seen. And something about being drawn, there's something about being drawn. It made me realize we don't often end up in a space where you have permission to look at someone for 2.5 hours, just
Yeah.
looking.
Yeah.
And they had permission to look straight back at me. So we were in a very unusual situation where we were allowed to look at each other, really look and look and look, and even have eye contact and know that nothing else was going to be happening. And it was a consent space. It was a safe space. And as that developed, it was really, the guys were saying, just they had a really good experience. They had a really good
Wow.
experience of dissolving their own shame, feeling seen and accepted. And then sometimes when they saw my drawing of them, they saw themselves as if they were seeing themselves for the first time, that they hadn't seen something of them. One of the guys said, he saw for the first time his own sovereignty and sort of magnificence that he had never seen before. He was just like slightly avoiding his own body. So it turned out to be extraordinary. Like,
I'm so glad you used the word extraordinary because honestly, like I know you can't see my face right now as a listener, but I'm blown away by this and I love when something massive, an unintentional, amazing, massive thing happens that you couldn't have anticipated. And oh, you just handled it so beautifully. And you know what you're saying about looking each other and having permission to look each other at each other and how unusual that is. I'm reminded too of just when Zoom came around. You know, Zoom is relatively new technology. It
yeah,
happened, I think, just before just before COVID, more
Yeah.
people were starting to use Zoom. And it's very like I've never looked at myself this much.
Yeah.
I've never looked at myself this much. It made me get Invisalign to fix my teeth a little bit. There was a space that was really bugging me because I'm staring at myself so much. But it's very intense, and not everybody is comfortable to be an hour on Zoom like this because it's personal. It's very personal, and certainly you created an exceptionally personal space.
Yeah.
That's
It,
wonderful. It's just a reminder of how important it is to be really, really clear, about
um,
what to expect, just that clarity. And we just assume that it's unnecessary, but no.
it was a real teaching about learning about consent space and safe space. And yeah, it's really about that. It's about saying, being brave enough to say, this is actually what I'd really like. I'd like it to be exactly like this. And, for this long and doing this. And yeah, it was unusual for me. I'd never really prioritized my own comfort and ease that much. And then that was actually helping me create a really safe space for them as well. It was a huge learning.
It's so good. And I was just thinking too, now that you're mentioning it, I never put it in this context, but when you popped on Zoom and we were meeting each other for the first time, and I feel so strongly that I tell people, I ask the question, is there anything you don't want to talk about? And make sure that they know that I'm open to editing and if you flub and just what happens, how it works if you end up saying something you don't want to say and all of that. And it's for exactly the reasons you just explained. And I didn't really appreciate the context of
Oh,
my whatever urge to do that.
yeah, I absolutely loved it that you did that. I was like, oh, Susie's doing for me what I was doing for those guys.
Well, look at that. So I learned something already. Something I didn't think I would learn on today's episode.
You were holding a safe consent space.
I was. I am. Oh, that's great. Okay,
Yeah.
so what you noted in your notes that I'm looking at is that there are so many types of shame that are hidden under feelings, procrastination, avoidance, tuning out, all this stuff. So the more you turn to the different types of shame, what happened for you? How did it affect your art project and you as a person being more aware of all of this?
So I got to know, in fact, I got visited by it so often. In fact, it was almost like a daily experience. I got to know the shame as a feeling. So what I recognize is that it's when my body goes a bit hot, my temperature goes up, a little bit of blushing. I mean, a little bit like that slightly embarrassed feeling.
Hmm.
Um, and what I now know is it's a feeling, but it doesn't, it's like a feeling like all the other feelings. It's just a feeling, and it's like an old, um, well, for example, someone shared with me that shame is like an early mammal response. And our very early mammalian shame response is to appease and to return to the herd. So it's like any moment where you feel worried that you're going to be judged or outcast, or that some behavior that we're doing is going to make us be outside of the social norms or rules, we can have that kind of wish to like appease, shrink back a little bit and get
Yes.
back into line. So it's just it's an ancient um, biological response in our body. And I was getting it, as I said, every time I had to go and speak to the receptionist. Um, at one point, the story in my head was that I was going to have to find somewhere else to stay because I thought they were going to say you can't stay here. Truth is, they loved me. And when I finished the project and I said, oh, this is my last time, they were like, "Oh, we don't want you to go. This is your home.
So
But the
sweet.
story in my mind was different to what the story was going on. It's like the story in my mind was different from the actual story. Uh,
Yes. So
I,
what you're getting at too, I think, is that this desire for belonging is
yeah,
just so strong, and the thoughts that we're having about not belonging
Yeah.
is related to the shame, is creating the shame
Yeah, and the fear that we're going to be outcast.
that we can't control it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm. And how has it changed you to be so much more aware of this feeling in your body?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think there's another one. There's like visibility shame. I mean, I still get it. I don't know if you get it. Like, if you ever
Of
go
course, I get it. Of course.
going live on Facebook and it's like the gels are feeling going all hot, avoidance, massive resistance, big thoughts going on in my head. I think that's shame. I think it's visibility shame. I think it's how most of us had messages like, don't take up too much space, don't stand out, that it's dangerous. Something dangerous might happen if we're that visible. I
Definitely.
I think that's a shame response. Wouldn't not
Well,
it's not I don't know, not necessarily what people would say, but like it's hard to say what different fear.
yeah, it's huge. It's such a huge insight. Whenever we can name feelings and we can start to really feel the difference, the subtle difference between some of these feelings, it's just it can be so freeing. And I don't know, you just know yourself better. You can never go wrong by knowing yourself better.
That's
Um,
it. I have it actually when I'm in a room full of people and there's an opportunity to speak and I have something I want to say, my body goes all hot and I know that's my sign. That's my sign that I want to say something. It's not necessarily what anyone would, it doesn't feel like I'm ready. It doesn't feel like I'm ready. I want to say something. It feels uncomfortable, hot, awkward. My mind goes blank, but I know that's the feeling.
so good. So what happened with the 100 Naked Man project? Where are you at with it now and what happened? Just what happened? I'm dying to know.
Oh my goodness. Well, I was working through it. First of all, I got 30 done, 40 done, 50 done. Then I was halfway. Then I did 60. And then halfway through the 60s, I kind of thought, oh, I think I am done. I was like, ah, I really started to feel like I'm done. I think I'm done. I think I'm good.
Wow.
I had also done something else pretty wild. After I'd done 44 drawings, I created a Naked Man oracle, a set of oracle cards of the first
Obviously.
44 drawings.
Obviously you did that.
It's a shameless part of my shameless experiment. I set up a podcast called The Shameless Experiment, and I decided the whole year was going to be a shameless experiment and that everything I did was going to be under this umbrella of the shameless experiment. So I did the oracle and then at about, I think I've done 70 drawings and I feel done. So I have them all stacked up in my studio. I would really like to have an exhibition. I did ask the men if for their how it was for them. So I've got some amazing testimonials. I did think my vision is in the exhibition in the catalogue. There'll be my drawing on one side and the men's description of their experience on the other side. But it was a hugely rich experience. I'm slightly overwhelmed by the idea of writing it all down, but I am.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. So right now they're stacked up waiting for the next step.
Yeah, they're all photographed and they're stacked up and I'm slowly writing it all down but just that, having 70 experiences, 70 conversations, it wasn't, it was like a collaborative, very much a collaborative project of the men who were willing to be drawn in me and it's felt very, very special in the end. Now that I've
Oh,
got momentum, I get guys saying the whole time, "Oh, are you still doing it? I'd love to be drawn." But I only ever worked with people, who I knew. So that goes
wow.
on.
You just never know. So tell me about these oracle cards.
Oh my goodness. Well, uh, okay. So they've got the 44 drawings, and they are each card is a shameless archetype of a part of us that, in fact, I feel like has been kind of squashed down. So things like holy arrival, rebel caress, threshold siren, the untamed one. One's called Hot Mess. They're kind of divine diva, the holy teak, sacred slut, holy hedonessa. So they're all in the feminine, and they're all yeah, the parts of us that you were kind of taught not to be too much. One of them's called Magnificent Siren,
Mm.
Shameless Virtuoso. So would you like to have an oracle reading?
I would actually.
Okay, well, this is how I think it works the best is if you have a question. I don't know if you've got a question about something that's going on in your life at the moment, or else we could just pull a card, which is basically going to be like, what's your ally in this? We could just in this season,
That's
you
great.
know,
Just pull a card. I love that framing.
in this season. Well, you guys are all heading up straight into Thanksgiving, aren't you? And holidays and
Well, I'm
Christmas.
in Canada. So no,
Oh,
our Thanksgiving's different. We had it in October. And
that's
at the
right.
time of this recording, it's November, just before
Oh,
the American Thanksgiving. So I'm clear.
and
I'm
you're
clear
right.
of food responsibilities for tomorrow.
Okay, okay, here we go. Divine Rebel,
Ooh.
Divine Rebel, and there's a little booklet.
I love how this project led you to this project.
Oh, yeah, it did. And when I was doing this, this felt like the naughtiest thing I had ever done in my life. As I was writing this in my kitchen, I was sort of doing happy dances, singing, I cannot believe. Like, anyway, that's the picture.
Let me see. Oh,
I
okay. That's
can't,
close up.
I can't believe that I'm writing this. Okay, Divine Rebel is about truth, courage, and regeneration. When your truth won't stay quiet, it's time to listen. Your bestie who says that voice that keeps knocking, there's a gift in it. Her rebellion isn't destruction, it's regeneration. She's not here to burn it all down. She's here to build what's next.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So, what comes up for me right away is my nudge to lean more into creativity and bring it into my business. And I've
Oh,
gotten that message from a few places lately. And to hear you just now confirming it, um, I love that. So, there's more to come on
fantastic.
that. I'm a certified Zentangle teacher, so mindful doodling is my jam. And I've found it really, really powerful in my life. And that's what I'm excited about, thinking more creatively about
Amazing.
all of that. And so before it's kind of like it's just the nudge is louder and the messages are louder now. So there will be something exciting coming this way.
So
Thank you for
cool.
that.
So cool.
Well, I didn't think I'd be getting it from that particular oracle deck.
Everything's in alignment.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so what advice would you give other women in the middle out there who might be in like what I like to call a midlife funk and they want more but they're afraid? So that's why I asked you all those questions because so many of us have been in a period of time, a season of confusion or stuckness where you just have this vague sense that something's not right. You know there's more, but you're blank. And many of us have no idea, like me. I had no idea that I was so fearful. So, what advice could you give that, really helps you move a little bit forward?
The word that I give myself all the time is permission. And I do a lot of journaling. And it's kind of like I could play in my journaling. If I gave myself permission, if I could do anything, if it wasn't selfish, if it wasn't selfish and I couldn't fail, what would I love to do?
Yeah.
Sort of like take all the dangers away and like just try and create a moment for myself where it's like, what would I really like to do? Like, and I say that to myself, like, darling, what would you love? And I know that what I did used to practice with, which turned out to be very important, was what would I really like to eat for dinner? Like I would go round the supermarket, I would practice in the supermarket. What would I really like to eat? No, but what would I really like to eat? And look in other people's baskets and notice if there's anything in their baskets that I really wanted. I don't know why, but blueberries always feel extravagant for me. It's like
Mm,
it's only blueberries, but blueberries make me feel like I am like the richest woman on earth if I have blueberries in my basket. So I
I'm like
practice.
that with avocados.
Oh, exactly. It's like
Oh,
I'm just,
avocados are magical. I just love
yeah.
them so much.
Yeah, so I remember going up and down the aisles, going, really, really, no, really, Michelle, really, what would you like? Really, you don't have to worry about it's healthy or unhealthy or whatever. Just what would you really like for dinner tonight? And that was, I think, the building of the muscle. Someone
Hmm.
else says, it's like, what lipstick would I really like to wear? What lipstick would I really like to, what clothes would I really like to wear? And just to start in these small ways, in a way, starts to build the muscle
Yes.
of who am I? What do I like? What do I want? Um,
So good. That's a great tip. That's a
oh,
great tip. We just have to really push ourselves a little bit more. And when that I don't know pops into your head, be curious about it. But what if you did know? What if what if you allowed yourself to know anyway? What if you ask yourself a different question? Like just keep digging. Don't just accept I don't know. It's a cop
exactly.
out to accept I don't know.
Well, I think we're sort of conditioned to not know.
Yeah.
And so it is a little bit of a journey to go, okay, imagine you're safe. Imagine no one's going to read your diary. Imagine you could do anything you like.
Well, that's the other thing that I always emphasize is such a reminder that just because you have the idea, you don't need to do it. But if you don't allow yourself to get the idea, you're going to squish your dream before it even sees the light of day.
Absolutely. And also, there's a difference between, oh, I'd like this, and then, oh, does that mean I have to go and ask for it? It's like, no, it's like just stage one is just, what would I like?
Yeah, I like to think of it as foundational too. Like, I don't know if they build with cinder blocks where you live, but around here, there's cinder blocks that build the basement. I really love thinking about the foundation. So if
Yeah.
I understood and connected to my desires more than I often do, and they make up the foundation of what I want, and I just learned to get comfortable with what I want, not having to ask anybody to get naked, nothing like that. Just like,
Yes,
am I allowed to put words to this is what I want? I want to do
exactly.
this. I want to have this experience. I want to go back to school. I want to quit my job. You don't have to do anything else, but just allow it to be the foundation of your desire. And then how you're going to make anything happen is a completely different question. But once the foundation is solid, it's much easier to move the needle.
100%. And I simply had no idea what was going to
Right.
happen. All I knew was one step ahead at each point. Oh, I think I'm going to go and draw Michelangelo tomorrow. Oh, I had a quiet idea about drawing 100 men in 10 years. It slowly desires, you can just go one step at a time. You'd said that, Susie. You said,
The next best step.
they don't reveal themselves 100%. You just get the next step.
They know better because they would freak us all out.
I mean, that would have been totally freaked me out. It would have freaked me out so much that I wouldn't have even started.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So I know you have some exciting things going on with retreats. Please tell us about that.
Well, thank you, Susie. This what do I want question has turned out to be what is most interests me because as I've said to people, women, what I'm doing, I hear them say a lot, oh, I don't know. How did you know what you wanted to do? I don't know what I want to do. And tuning into our desires and clearing the shame around our desires has become the work that I absolutely love to do. So I have a signature retreat that I do in Venice, 3 days, the fastest, most fun way to eliminate all shame and doubt and guilt from your life. And I'm also just putting together my online version, which again is a 3 day immersion. And it's partly mindset, it's partly creative, partly embodiment.
Well, it's in Venice. Did I just miss? Did you not say Venice?
Exactly. One is in Venice and one is online, but one is in Venice. And that is absolutely I've just run it one. I've just had my first one, and I had fantastic testimonials, and it really is magical. It's a magical place, and
Is there drawing involved?
there is drawing involved.
What kind of drawing?
There is using the format of So basically what I realized is practicing being in charge and practicing asking for a naked man to sit in a way that I would like was like the ultimate training in permission. And my first client said she hadn't drawn since she was 16. And she did have some hesitations, but after 5 minutes, and after the first day, she absolutely loved it. So it's you don't have to be an artist, but it's like practicing asking for what you want in a particular situation, and it's very empowering.
So you're saying we're drawing live nudes at your retreat?
You're drawing live nudes, and also you get to ask them how you would like them to sit.
So are these just men?
These are men, and ultimately, I think, yeah, at the moment, the retreats are for women and the men are, but the men also, yeah, the men get just as much out of it as the woman, but it
Oh
is
my
for,
gosh. I am squirming. I'm squirming with delight, but I am so like I can tell that this would really be a stretch for I am dying to do this with you, and this would be so squirm worthy. I would have to work on it for a while.
I know, and actually that's exactly what happened to the men as well, who wanted to be drawn. There was a squirm moment. The squirm is true and real. It's like it is a threshold to step over.
Hmm.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
yeah, like well, overall, I'm definitely trying to think about what would it be like for me to attend. But I'm beside myself with excitement that you figured this out. You followed
Yeah.
your hunch, you trusted your gut, you heard yourself thinking. You
Yeah.
allowed yourself to be curious about these thoughts that were they sounded to you like they were a little wacky, like it was really out there. It challenged you with uncomfortable feelings. And not only did you do it, you 10x'd it. And then you realized when you wanted to stop, when the experience was complete. Like that's a huge thing that you figured out. And now you figured out how to apply it and to share some of what you've learned in a way that's super fun for you in Venice with these retreats and now an online version of it. Like, this is such a beautiful process of decision making and trusting your gut and figuring out your why and setting some purpose in motion and getting your jollies as a grown up. Love it.
Oh, it's true. It's like you know, the what did you call it? The cringe? No,
Squirm
you know,
worthy.
the squirm is true. And there is something about how quickly the shame and all of that can clear, and it opens the path to connect more easily with our desires. So it's true. It's squirm worthy, and it's also very fun. And
It's
it's
that I think there'd
also
be something to it and also in group. Like you're not the only one squirming.
you're not the only one squirming. And it's something like the squirm actually brings the vulnerability, which allows so much connection
Hmm.
and kind of profound, profound kind of experiences.
Wow. Who knew that I needed this in my life?
Oh, Susie, I would so love you to come. That would be so fun.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's definitely going to go on my list. That's for sure. So tell us, how can people get a hold of you?
Okay. I have a website, michelledovey.com. Um, my retreat is venice.michelledovey.com. That's the Venice retreat.
And your podcast?
And my podcast is called The Shameless Experiment, and it's on YouTube. Um, and I've got my online retreat coming out right now. If anyone wants to sign up to my emails, that's the best way to stay in touch with me, and you can do that via my website.
Amazing. So the website again is michelledovey.com, Dovey, Dovey.com. Michelle, so much fun. What a great interview. I had the best time. I didn't know I needed this in my life, but seriously, this was a very deep, important topic. And the realizations and revelations you had personally Thank you so much for taking the time to share them with us so authentically. And yeah, you've been through a lot and you thrived and you're living your dream. Like the fact that you put it all together back to when you were 14. Oh my gosh, that's just such important work you did. So congratulations on all of your hard work and your success. And thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, I hope you loved meeting my guest Michelle as much as I did. I just loved her story, especially how curious and courageous she was, even around the difficult emotion of shame. When you think about your own quest to be intentional about your passion in life, what comes up for you? Once you're clear about what it is, do you have the courage to be curious? To explore your desire, including all the potential emotions that come up? If you discover that you're not as curious as you want to be, or if you see that you're resistant to go after what you figure out that you really, really want, please reach out if you would like to talk about coaching together. I've got several options that might be a good fit for you, especially the Women in the Middle Academy. It's the gift that keeps on giving, and finding your passion is something your future self will be so grateful for. Head over to www.talktosusie.com. That's it for this episode. Thanks so much for listening to the Women in the Middle show. Please remember to share it with your friends and other midlife gals that you know would get a lot out of it. My focus as your regret-proofing midlife coach is to help you get unstuck and get on with the good stuff. Being the queen of your brain domain is the best way to be. It is time to stop waiting for the right moment and start creating the happiness, excitement, joy, and fulfillment that you crave. Also, there is a new midlife quiz waiting for you as well. If you want to discover what's been keeping you stuck and learn what your future self is actually craving, go to www.midlifequiz.com. For show notes and links, go to susierosenstein.com and click on the podcast tab and look for episode 442. And then you will see a link there for my other show as well, The Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, which is all about the reality of running your business when you're a midlife gal. It's also on iTunes, Spotify, and all the podcast places. Let's do this, ladies. It's time for you to put yourself first, one thought at a time. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next week.